What are 8 things to give up if you want to be more successful in business and investing? So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the things you should give up if you want to be more successful in business and investing. And before doing that, go over to adamfire.com to see if I can assist you in your financial life and journey, and indeed how I've helped other people in the same position in the past and currently. Now, I've done a lot of reflecting over the years about a lot of the mistakes I've made and a lot of the mistakes that people around me have made, as well as a lot of the mistakes that people in general make. So I've come up with a list of 8 of the key commonalities that I've seen over and over again. I could have made the list longer, but obviously the video is only going to cover certain things. Number 1 is being too risk adverse. People act as if they've got more to lose than they actually do, especially when people are young and don't have any commitments in terms of family or mortgages or whatever. That's a great time to take a lot of risk, a lot of calculated risk. But even when people are older, they overestimate how much risk they're actually going to take. I think it was Steve Jobs who, when he was speaking to graduates, said, one of the best ways to remind yourself you don't have anything to lose is that you're going to die. And all the chips you earn when you're living are not going to be with you when you die. And a lot of people don't consider that. Like, even people who are older and maybe have responsibilities, if they have, say, £500,000 or dollars in the bank, they often think, well, if they're going to invest, they're going to actually be taking a huge risk. And actually, that's not the case at all. You know, you're not going to be on the streets if, something goes wrong. But it leads me to something else, and that's confusing volatility and stability, which would be number 2. A lot of people falsely think if something's more volatile, then it's less secure. That's not the case, because cash in general is very stable in terms of the price doesn't move very much from year to year. But we've seen historically currencies can look like this for decades, but then just go suddenly down dramatically, like the Venezuelan currency, or recently almost every emerging market currency against the US dollar. So a lot of people think, well, if something's fixed return, it's more safe than if something is volatile. But that's usually not always the case. I mean, look at some of the best performing assets in the world, like the S&P 500. Consistently, it's been very volatile, but consistently over, say, a 30 or 40 year period, it's done very well for people. So usually people take a lot of risk because they confuse these 2 elements. They think cash is less risky because it's less volatile. That's actually not the case. Now, number 3, I would say, and this is a huge one, is overstating how important ideas are. When it comes to ideas in isolation are not worth anything. You're not going to make money with ideas. And likewise, a lot of people think to start a business, you've got to have a great idea. You actually don't need to have a great idea. You just need to execute well. The world is full of people like real estate agents, recruitment agents, or whoever, who are not doing anything fancy, but they're just executing on something that people need. So too many people think the idea is much more important than it actually is. I think that's linked to a scarcity mindset though. I think a lot of people overestimate how difficult it is to make money. So they think you've got to have this light bulb moment. And then once you have that light bulb moment, then, you can actually make loads of money. But what's interesting about this focus on ideas is I've found that even people who are from very rich families and people who know a lot of people, they often also have this same issue that they think ideas are more important than they are. It's only successful entrepreneurs who have actually gone through the cycle of a business who really understand that executional skills matter more than ideas or natural talent or anything else. If you can find someone who can execute, that's everything, not the idea. Now, number 4 is wishful thinking, which was kind of linked to the last point, but it goes beyond that. A lot of people say things like your net worth is not as important as your network. The kind of people who go to loads of networking events. And a lot of these things just aren't true. So really don't get involved in wishful thinking. Really force yourself to think about some of the ideas that you maybe have that aren't actually conducive to more success. Number 5 is a lack of focus. So working hard is great, but working hard is not the same thing as being focused. Working smart and hard is more important. But even then, right, if you are just focused on one idea, executing it really well at one time, you're probably going to do better than someone who works harder than you, but is focused on 5 or 10 different ideas. Think about it. It's a bit like if you start 10 businesses, those 10 businesses are not going to take up 10% of your time. Each one is going to take up 20% or 30% of your time. So you're going to be working double or triple what an entrepreneur who's only focused on one business is working. And not only that, but very few people, relatively speaking, are actually good at multitasking compared to just focusing on one business, one idea. So people who are hyper-focused tend to actually really do well in business. And another thing is you can get more expertise this way, because obviously long-term you want to diversify your wealth, especially if you're a business owner, but that's different to, say, working on a business actively. If you're working in the same area every single day for decades, you're just going to know more, you're going to really accumulate more experience, more contacts and so on. And again, getting back to number one, some people might say, well, it's less risky to focus on 5 or 10 different businesses. But what I found about almost everybody who only focuses on ideas and tries to get into loads of different businesses, they never become focused. If they're in financial services on Monday and then on Wednesday they're thinking about starting a bar with their best friend, it never works, or very seldom does it work. So being focused, working hard and working smart, but focused for the long term is a key thing, which leads me to another thing, and that's a long-term mindset. Obviously, it is possible to make money quickly. Get rich quick is not the same as get rich easy. And as I said before, there are a small number of people who get rich quick, but in reality, as I think it was Lionel Messi or Steve Jobs once said, I was called an overnight success, but it took me about 10 years to get there. So even people who get rich quick, they've often put in the work beforehand. But the point is, you shouldn't give up on an idea just because it's not working straight away. So if you're investing, for example, let's say you start investing in the S&P 500 today, and it goes down for 1 or 2 years, that's not a good reason to stop investing, right? Because it's got a 100-year track record. It was stagnant from 2000 until 2010. So even if you have 10 bad years, you shouldn't stop when it comes to that kind of investment. Likewise, when it comes to a business as well, it is about obviously making money today, but it's also about a long-term mindset as well. And people who have that long-term mindset are more likely to succeed. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be impatient for success quickly, but it just means you should also focus on the long term as well. And 2 more things. An unpragmatic mindset or moralistic mindset. So I've noticed a lot of people who are not very pragmatic in business tend to suffer. So for example, the kinds of people who will say, you know what, I'm going to open up a bar, but I'm not going to serve alcohol because it's against my religious beliefs. Or I don't know, I'm going to go into financial services, but I'm not going to sell this kind of product even though there's a demand there. So being pragmatic as a business person is actually quite important, I think. And the same thing in investing. And finally, blaming other people is a key mistake as well. It sounds obvious, but a lot of people might blame the government, they might blame immigrants, they might blame the so-called rich and so on. But at the end of the day, people who succeed are very focused. They focus on what they can achieve. They're go-getters. They're willing to say, you know what, even if I have to move to another country, I'm going to do it. Even if I've got to make myself uncomfortable, I'm going to do it. You know, getting yourself out of your comfort zone is really, really important. Most of the good things in life, whether it's in life, business, investing or whatever, come from making yourself uncomfortable. So getting out of your comfort zone is one of the most important things, I think, that you can do as a business owner or in investing.
Depends on every person's individual goals, how much money they want to invest, how long they want to invest. And I did not have at all the feeling from any bank with which I had contact with that they were interested in these things. Mm-hmm. Whereas with you, it was from the very beginning obvious to me that you had experience in these matters and also were interested in what I wanted to achieve.
Anyways, I'm very, very pleased and positive to say that I believe I've picked the right one. The results in the last couple of years have overreached my expectations by far. And I see no reason why it should not continue. Of course, I can highly recommend him as your financial advisor for now and for the future, because hesitating is missing out.
So I'm investing a lot in the Middle East market, but the amount of returns I'm getting from there is very low as per the amount of returns I'm getting from the investment portfolio which you made for me. Obviously, the best result in market right now is Adam.